Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. And we do apologize for the slight technical hitches that we were experiencing just now. But as always, we will blame it on Eskom because they are the rascals in this regard. Let's hope and pray that that situation in our country also does resolve eventually. We are going to be talking with our first guest, and that, of course, is Dr. Allan Boesak. He's an anti-apartheid activist, and this time around we know we had a cracker of an interview with him over a week ago, and of course we had so many views on that interview, but of course we were shadow banned, we were censored on that interview. Dr. Boesak, just in case you didn't know, our figures were climbing very rapidly. I think we were close to the 20,000 views, and then all of a sudden we got shadow banned on that particular interview. But
Yeah, yeah.
that does indicate that somebody out there doesn't like what we're saying. So we need to be really in the forefront and keep making our voices heard as far as the situation, the genocide that is going down in Palestine. This time around, of course, it still has to do with the issue of genocide and the people behind the genocide, the people that are funding it.
Yes.
In this instance, of course, we're talking Joe Biden and other Western governments that are putting all their weight and might behind the situation in Palestine. It also begs the question regarding once, and we hope and pray it happens soon, once the genocide stops, we're not quite sure what that situation is going to look like, whether the Palestinian people are going to be allowed to rebuild their lives, at what cost, who's going to carry the cost, and the current cost of the war um, to the Israelis and the rest of the world, including America. Let's put that aside. You will respond to that question for me as well. But let's start off by talking about just how disturbed you are about the AGOA Opportunity Forum, which is going to be happening in South Africa, with the possibility of Joe Biden and other such people attending this particular forum in our country. Good morning, welcome, and lovely to be talking with you.
Good morning, Julie, and it's good to be talking to you again, and good morning to all your listeners. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you.
I am deeply disturbed at this forum that is going to happen, and that South Africa is going to host it. I'm deeply disturbed that our government cannot make the distinction between what one might call normal circumstances and extraordinary circumstances. I do not know what is more extraordinary in our world right now than the genocidal war that is continuing and that is ratcheting up itself every single day. On Sunday afternoon, in between church services, while I was listening to the news, I heard that there's a Palestinian baby killed every 15 minutes. A day later, the news said that Palestinian babies are being killed every 10 minutes. So it's clear that things are not slacking down. Nobody is doing any kind of effort to try and stop Netanyahu and his government from this war of extermination. And the United States is actively egging them on. The United States is funding them. The United States has been given them political cover for as long as anyone can remember, since the Nakba, at least. And so this is where we are. And so for countries who do not have the power, like the United States has, if the US today says to Netanyahu, stop the war, we will no longer give you any more weapons or any more money, then the war will stop. We know that. Because when Netanyahu heard from Biden that it is really too gross, it is really too inhumane to cut off electricity and let babies die in incubators. or to cut off waters and let children die in the street from thirst. He stopped it. He reinstated the electricity, he reinstated the water. And so it is in Biden's power. What is in our power is not that. We do not have the power to say to Netanyahu, stop the war. We do not even have the power to say to Biden, stop the war. We do, however, have the power to realize that a symbolic act from us becomes more and more important the less and less political power you have. A symbolic act such as hosting the United States, hosting Joe Biden specifically, or Blinken, or Sullivan, or any of those warmongers in his regime, hosting them as if we were friends, as if nothing was happening. That, I think, is something that should be so horrific that we should not even think about. So that's number one. So that means that our symbolic act would be to say, we are sorry until this situation in Gaza is brought to an end, until there is a ceasefire, until there are meaningful peace talks, until Palestinians have the right to sit with the same dignity and with the same equality at the same table, then we are not hosting such things. And that again is the least that we could do. We haven't yet told the Israeli ambassador to go home. We haven't yet down shut our embassy in Israel. We have not yet told everybody connected with this embassy of Israel in South Africa to go home. We have not yet cut all ties with the apartheid state. We have not yet come out with a clear and an unambiguous statement backing the BDS movement. We haven't done any of those things. So we are on the other side of this war, no matter what the words are that we so piously mouth every single day.
Naledi Pandor has been pretty vociferous on this matter, and I was expecting all of those speeches that she has made up to now that we would close down the embassy, the Israeli embassy, and send back all of their staff and the ambassador as well. Why do you suppose this hasn't happened up to now?
Well, I know Minister Naledi Pandor, and I have always had great respect for her and the stances that she has been taking on some of these foreign affairs matters, including Venezuela. She was very good on that one as well, and now on Palestine, she is very good. The point is, it means very little, Julie, if we only stop at making statements. Everybody is making statements one way or the other. South Africa, with its claim on our special relationship with the Palestinian people in their struggle, a long standing, historical, emotional relationship. I mean, Ms. Pandor is a Muslim, so a South African Minister of Foreign Affairs is also a Muslim. It's that extra binding together that we have. And so it seems to me we ought to be more fervent than anybody else because of these factors. We have Mandela's words ringing in our ears every single day that that South Africans will not be completely free unless Palestinians are completely free. We have all of that as well. We have our people on the streets marching. There were 10,000 people that I was present with last week in Cape Town. There will be another march tomorrow. So the voice of the people is clear. The voice of the people is unequivocal. The voice of the people is not open for misunderstanding. So, but Ms. Naledi Pandor must, I suppose, even in this, follow the instructions of the president, and that is why everything, as far as this is concerned, comes down to the door of President Cyril Ramaphosa. What is it that makes Cyril Ramaphosa think that whatever ties and whatever connections and whatever deals he has with Zionists in Israel or in South Africa, that those are more important not then solidarity or statements more important than the lives of Palestinian children. That is what disturbs me. It throws me out of whack in a way that I find hard to describe.
Dr. Busak, let's not, as a lot of people are all around the world, seem to have this understanding or misunderstanding that the Palestinian issue is a Muslim versus Jewish or Zionist versus Muslim issue. That is not the issue here. We also know that there's a huge number of Christian Palestinians that are also caught up in all of this drama. Because when children, entire villages, children, babies, and women are killed, and the youth are killed, they're not necessarily Muslim youth, children, and women that are killed. They are Palestinians, and they may well be Christian people. Also, the names are very similar. You can't distinguish. For example, Shireen Abu Akleh, the journalist that was killed
Yeah,
by the Israelis last
yeah,
year, the Al Jazeera journalist, when
yeah.
her name was announced, we all assumed automatically she's Muslim. She wasn't. She's Christian. So there's this, there's this notion all around the world that this is a Muslim issue. It's not. It's an issue about human beings. Let's be humane about this. Let's take religion out of the equation. It's not about Muslims only.
No, the religion is only important in two ways. You are absolutely right. Last week, I was on a very long Zoom conference with my friend Mitri Rahab, who is a Christian minister in Bethlehem. Just to mention that as an example, and we talked about what it meant, and he gave us an on the ground, up to date version of what he saw and what they were experiencing, and who his friends and his students and congregation members who had been killed or is just missing. So that link is very, very strong. Um, but the issue of religion is only important in two ways, Julie. Because religion is abused by many Zionists, Israeli Zionists or Jewish Zionists, and their use of certain passages of scripture to justify what is happening even today. And religion is used by Christian Zionists to justify what Jewish Zionists are doing, even if Zionism is a completely secular political ideology born with the aim to colonize Palestine, to steal the land, and to exterminate the Palestinian people. That's the ultimate goal. And that is a goal that has been ongoing consistently since 1948, at least. So it's in that sense. So as a Christian, I have to mention the religion aspect because I cannot understand how a Christian who proclaims to be a follower of Jesus, that Palestinian resistor of empire that we meet in the pages of the Gospels, in the New Testament. That man who stood up for justice and who was crucified by the Romans as a criminal because of his resistance and because of the fact that he stood by those who were oppressed and wronged and marginalized and burdened and so forth, that somebody in the name of that Jesus can stand by murderers of children and war criminals and people out to exterminate a whole group. So in that sense, so a Christian testimony to them, and that is why I'm so glad to hear also a Jewish testimony. So, but that's the religious aspect. But you, of course, are absolutely right. When Israel decides to bomb a certain place, that bomb is not programmed to kill Muslims only. That bomb
Absolutely.
is not programmed to identify this baby is a Muslim baby, kill that baby. But this baby is a Christian baby, spare that baby. It is a campaign to get rid of a whole people who happen to be Palestinians and who happen to be Muslims and Christians, and who have been living together long before this project of colonization came along. And so in that sense only must we remind people of the heavy responsibility of those who dare to bring in a religious argument into this particular situation.
And of course, we also are aware of the fact that the Zionists are very anti Christian as well. But
Yeah.
that narrative doesn't seem to come out in the mainstream media. Why is that? Why do you suppose that we're not hearing that narrative at all? Is it because
Mainstream.
they don't want to upset their funders, the American funders? Joe Biden is Christian; he's not Jewish. So, do they keep silent on the Christian issue in Palestine simply because they don't want to upset their funders going forward?
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So go ahead.
carry on, you
No, no,
carry
no.
on.
That of course is one thing. But Joe Biden, we have known Joe Biden as a Christian Zionist for a very, very long time. All of his 40 plus years in the Senate, all of his 4 years, 8 years as vice president, and now his years as president, Biden, like most American politicians, are pro-Zionist, and he is a Christian Zionist. I always ask the question, for those people, what does Christianity mean to them? For me, Christian Zionism is the same heresy and blasphemy, the ideological use of the gospel for these evil political purposes. And we declared the theology of apartheid when apartheid used the Bible to justify itself morally and biblically and theologically. And we declared that theology a heresy and a blasphemy and a distortion of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is what we must do with Christians who are Zionists and who are justifying what is happening right now and who have been justifying what has been happening for the last 75 years. So that's the one answer to that question. The other answer to that question, of course, it is about the money. But it is also, you must not forget, in a country like South Africa, in a country like the United States, there are not enough Jewish Zionists to bolster the ideology and the relationship, the special relationship with Israel. They need very much Christians to believe in that ideology also. And that is why the South African Friends of Israel is a purely Zionist organization whose sole aim is to recruit Christians and Christian pastors, especially, who can influence their congregations, and they give them loads of money and they give them paid trips where they are ideologically brainwashed about, and they go to the Holy Land, but for them the Holy Land is only Israel. For them the Holy Land does not even include Palestine. It does not include the history of the Palestinians. And so it's important for them, for political purposes, for influencing purposes, that they get as many of these Christians on board with this false theological understanding of what the biblical story about Israel and about the peoples of the world actually is. And it begins with saying that Israel is an exceptional nation, whereas we know that that is not the case. And that is an ideological barrier that needs to be broken down.
Okay. Recently, just over the past few days, and I hear you saying it as well, talking about Christian Zionism and Jewish Zionism. I want to understand what's the similarity between those two, but can we go for a quick ad break? And when we come back, there's just so much more to talk about this morning. So I do hope you're going to allow me at least another 10 minutes on the show this morning. So you can go and grab yourself a cup of coffee quickly whilst we're taking an ad break.
Okay, thank you.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning or for the late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, Now We Cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists, with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Africa. The Ahmad School of Excellence in Lebanon provides world-class education to Syrian and Palestinian refugees and Lebanese children with a library, coding, robotics lab, special needs classroom, and more. Amman is the foundation from which a generation of underprivileged children can fight poverty and reclaim their freedom. Donate towards a child's education, because every child deserves the chance of a better future. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
It's exactly 8:40 a.m. News and views on Salam Media, and we're going to have to wrap up this interview with Dr. Boesak, because I understand we have managed to get hold of a guest in Palestine. But I do have one or two very important questions that I do need to put to Dr. Boesak. And of course, we'll be having many more conversations going forward. Dr. Boesak, you're going to respond regarding Christian versus Jewish Zionism. What's the difference or the similarities?
There is really very little difference. It is the Jewish Zionism ideology, when it comes to Christians, is dressed up in Christian language with references to the Bible, with references to certain prophecies that Israel will be resurrected one day through a war that will be the end Armageddon. In other words, Israel against everybody else, and the interpretation is Israel against every single Palestinian and every other Arab nation that is supposed to form a threat against Israel, and that God will then raise Israel up, and those chosen from the Christian community who have been Israel supporters will then be elected by God in the end times. That's very simplistic, but that's where it comes down to. And so they seek to blend an essentially atheistic, irreligious, anti-religious ideology that started in the Jewish community. Certain Jews, not all Jews are Zionists. We must be very clear on that. And not all Jews are anti-Palestinian. We must be very clear on that as well. But those Jews who has made Zionism their ideology, those are the people who are ruling Israel right now. Those are Netanyahu and Smotrich and Gabir and those people. All of them are that kind of Zionists. And they hope that if they can dress up their ideology and their warmongering as a Christian duty, wrapped in Christian theological thoughts, that they can get Christians to support them. And look what they have done. They've had the support of so many Christians across the United States for so many years that any person running for office in the United States, not just the president, must make sure that they get what that the Americans call the Christian right wing, the Christian right fundamentalist evangelical wing. And they are mostly white. Even though the efforts to bring in black Christians have never stopped, and that is what they are doing in South Africa as well.
Okay, obviously they are talking about the whole intent is for a new world order. 2-3 weeks ago, I spoke with Naeem Jina and I raised the question around the new world order. And he said it's in place already. But I've also heard, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, I came across a clip by one of Netanyahu's ministers who suggested that obviously the ceasefire is not going to uphold. They are going to relentlessly carry on and annihilate the Palestinians, and they are working very hard on this new world order. And it's exactly what you have outlined now, the new world order.
That's exactly what it is. But see here, there are other forces at work as well. There is, on the one hand, a new Jew-economic, Jew-political order being set up with China and Russia in the lead. And that is taking a slightly different view on what is happening in the Middle East. And then there is the old order of the United States, with its absolute unequivocal backing of anything and everything that Israel is doing. And that order is crumbling. And so this new order is a kind of an eschatological, meaning that is something that was in the mind of God, not just in the mind of human beings. So for them, it has this divine stamp that God is shaping a new order. And this new order includes or demands and requires the total extermination of the enemies of Israel. That minister that you quoted, I think it was Smotrich.
That's right.
Yeah, it was Smotrich. Now I know that man. He has been incredible, but incredibly honest in a most vile way. Now Smotrich made the connection with the Old Testament story of the people of Amalek, whom God supposedly in that piece in the Old Testament says to Israel, this is what you must do to the children of Amalek: smite them with a sword, leave no one alive, no camel, no sheep, no goat, nothing, kill everybody, man, woman, and child. And what he is saying is that for today, the Palestinians are the Amalekites of today. And so he takes, and he's not a religious Jew. He is a shameless abuser of the religious feelings of other Jews to get them in, and the religious feelings of Christians to draw them in on this side of murder and extermination and genocide. And so for him, this new order means Amalek must be destroyed. Amalek is every single Palestinian alive. The land of Amalek must be given to Israel as God had intended in their view. And so that's why this war cannot stop. And so that is why, to come back to the thing that we talked about in the beginning, I do not understand why Cyril Ramaphosa doesn't have anybody that explains that to him, so that he says that what Joe Biden is doing with his support politically, financially, and militarily of Israel in this war right now is he is helping Smotrich and Netanyahu and others to carry out this unbiblical, unholy, vile vision that they want to clothe with God's divinity. And he knows that as we speak, that Israel has dropped more bombs on Gaza in a week than he and his country had dropped on Afghanistan in a year. knowing that he comes here, knowing that he knows Amalek, he knows the story, he knows the end goal, he knows the end game. Cyril Ramaphosa must have somebody who will tell him that and say, you cannot shake the hand, the blood-spattered man, the hand of this man, and make as if South Africa is his friend while we mouth only pious words towards the Palestinians.
Dr. Allan Boesak, I'd love to talk with you for the rest of the day if I could, but I can't. I've got to wrap it up there, but I'm hoping you're going to keep yourself available for us here on Salam Media on a weekly basis. I really have to unpack so much with you. So that's a date. We're going to be talking with you on a weekly basis, and I look forward to that. God bless. Thank you indeed.
It's a promise. Thank you so much. God bless you and all your listeners. And tell our Palestinian friend you're talking to, my heart is with them.
I think he is able to listen to this part of the conversation.
Wonderful.
Very, very quickly, are you organizing a march when Biden or his counterpart lands in South Africa? And also the placard should read, murderers, you have blood on your hands. I hope and pray that that is going to happen.
There's a march tomorrow. We'll see what the committee does with going forward when Biden comes here. But thank you so much.
Good on you.
Stay
blessed. Stay blessed.
God bless you. Thanks. Bye.
By 8:47 News and Views on Salam Media. And of course, we're running out of time because we have these amazing people sharing their amazing views with us. And rightly so, and these voices need to be heard. We'll continue to make them heard. Standing by is Mohammed Huraini. He's an activist and human rights defender for youth of the Sumit group from Tuwani village in Masafar, Yalta, I think it is. He'll correct me in a minute or two, but let's go quickly to him. A short station ID, and we're going to be joined by Mohammed.